Stop everything you're doing right now because what I'm about to share with you could literally change your financial situation this month. The Social Security Administration just dropped a bombshell announcement that has millions of retirees frantically refreshing their bank accounts, and I guarantee you that 90% of what you've heard about this so-called $200 increase is either completely wrong or deliberately misleading. I've been helping folks just like you navigate these murky financial waters for years now, and let me tell you something. The amount of garbage information floating around the internet about Social Security right now is absolutely criminal. So before you panic, before you celebrate, and definitely before you make any decisions based on some random post you saw on Facebook, you need to watch this entire video because I'm going to break down exactly what's really happening, who's actually getting this money, and most importantly, how you can make sure you're collecting every single penny that you've rightfully earned. And hey, if you're one of those amazing people who finds value in straight talk and real information, do me a quick favor and smash that subscribe button right now because I drop videos like this every single week, and you don't want to miss any of these critical updates that could affect your wallet. All right, folks, let me just get right into it because I know your time is valuable and you didn't click on this video to hear me ramble about nothing. There's been a significant change to Social Security payments here in 2025, and yes, I can confirm that some recipients are genuinely seeing approximately $200 more landing in their bank accounts every single month. But here's the thing that's driving me absolutely crazy about all these other videos and articles out there. They're making it sound like everyone and their grandmother is getting this $200 windfall, and that's just not how any of this works. The reality is way more complicated, and understanding exactly who qualifies for what could mean the difference between planning your finances around money that's actually coming versus getting completely blindsided when your check doesn't match what some random YouTuber promised you. Now, before I go any deeper into this, I need you to understand something fundamental about how I approach these conversations with you. I'm not here to get your hopes up with fairy tales. I'm not here to sugarcoat the reality just to make you feel warm and fuzzy for the next 15 minutes. What I am here to do is give you the raw, unfiltered truth about what's actually happening with your Social Security benefits, who's legitimately receiving these increased payments, and what concrete steps you need to take today to ensure you're not leaving a single dollar on the table. These are benefits you've earned through decades of backbreaking work, and you deserve to know exactly where you stand. So let's dive into the actual numbers here because this is where I see people getting tripped up left and right. The cost of living adjustment for 2025 came in at 2.5%. Now, I know that sounds like just another percentage that politicians throw around, but what does it actually mean for your bank account? Well, here's the deal. That 2.5% gets applied to whatever you were receiving before, which means it translates to completely different dollar amounts depending on your current benefit level. If you're receiving the average retirement benefit of around $1,900 monthly, this COLA works out to roughly $48 more per month. Now I can already hear some of you saying, wait a minute, buddy, you just told me people are getting $200 more, and now you're throwing around $48. What kind of bait and switch is this? And honestly, that's exactly the right question to ask, because this is precisely where understanding the details becomes absolutely critical to your financial well-being. The folks who are actually seeing increases in the $200 range or even higher are typically those who were already pulling in above average benefits before this adjustment kicked in. Think about it this way. If you're receiving the maximum Social Security benefit, which last year was hovering around $4,700 for someone who retired right at their full retirement age, then a 2.5% bump puts you at roughly an extra $117 per month, getting closer to that 200 mark, right? But if you were one of those savvy individuals who delayed claiming benefits until age 70 and you're now receiving closer to that maximum delayed retirement benefit, which can actually exceed $5,800 every single month, then yes, your COLA increase absolutely could push you into that $200 territory or even beyond it. But here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody seems willing to mention. Less than 6% of Social Security recipients are receiving anything close to the maximum benefit. The vast majority of retirees, and I'm talking about millions upon millions of hardworking Americans, are working with that average figure of around $1,900, which means their increase is going to be proportional to their existing payment amount. And this brings me to something I really need to get off my chest because it keeps me up at night thinking about it. There are seniors watching this video right now Good, honest people who spent 40 or 50 years working jobs that broke their backs and wore out their bodies, and they're sitting in cold apartments trying to decide between buying their blood pressure medication or keeping the heat running for another week. That's not some dramatic exaggeration I'm throwing out there for effect. That is the daily reality for far too many older Americans in this country, and it makes me genuinely angry when I see misleading content online that gets their hopes up about some magical windfall that isn't coming their way. Let me paint you a picture of what life actually looks like for millions of seniors on Social Security right now. We're talking about people who raised families, paid their taxes every single year without fail, contributed to their communities, and did everything they were supposed to do. And now they're stretching every single dollar until it screams for mercy. They're cutting pills in half because they can't afford full doses. They're eating the same cheap meals day after day because anything nutritious costs too much. They're sitting in the dark to save on electricity and wearing 3 sweaters indoors during winter because heating oil prices are through the roof. These aren't strangers in some faraway land. These are your neighbors. These are the folks sitting next to you at church. These might even be your own parents or grandparents. So when we talk about whether someone is getting $48 more or $200 more, we're not just playing around with numbers on a spreadsheet. We're talking about real human dignity and whether people can afford to live out their final years with some semblance of comfort and security. That extra $200 for the people who are actually getting it could mean finally being able to visit grandchildren who live a few states away. It could mean getting that dental work done that's been causing pain for months. It could mean turning the thermostat up to a comfortable temperature without breaking into a cold sweat worrying about the utility bill. And for those getting the smaller increase, that $48 still matters because every single dollar counts when you're living on a fixed income that barely covered your expenses even before inflation started eating everything alive. Now, here's where things get interesting and where I want you to really pay attention because this could apply directly to your situation. There's another group of people who might legitimately be seeing larger increases, and this is something the mainstream coverage completely glosses over. If you're receiving both Social Security retirement benefits and Supplemental Security Income, commonly called SSI, you could be looking at a combined increase that genuinely gets you into that $200 range or possibly even higher. See, SSI recipients got their own COLA increase applied to their payments, and when you stack that on top of your regular Social Security COLA, the combined effect can actually be pretty substantial. But let me be crystal clear about something because I think this is where a lot of confusion and honestly a lot of frustration comes from. This isn't free money materializing out of thin air. This isn't the government suddenly deciding to be generous with your cash. Cost of living adjustments are specifically designed to help your fixed income keep pace with the reality of rising prices for groceries, utilities, healthcare, prescription drugs, and all the other expenses that have been absolutely demolishing your purchasing power over the past few years. Think about it like this. If everything at the grocery store costs 2.5% more than it did last year, and your Social Security check stayed exactly the same, you're effectively taking a pay cut, even though the number on your check didn't change. You can simply buy less stuff with the same amount of money. The COLA is supposed to prevent that erosion from happening, to keep you treading water instead of slowly drowning. But here's where I get genuinely frustrated with how this whole system operates, and I'm just going to be completely honest with you about this because you deserve the truth. The way they calculate inflation for Social Security purposes doesn't always match up with what seniors are actually spending their money on in the real world. The government uses something called the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, which is quite a mouthful, and it's based on the spending patterns of working age people who have completely different expenses than retirees do. Seniors typically spend a much larger chunk of their income on healthcare costs and housing, and those particular expenses have been rising faster than general inflation for years now. So even with this 2.5% COLA, many retirees are going to find that their actual day-to-day expenses are still climbing faster than their benefit increases. That's not me being a pessimist or trying to rain on anyone's parade. That's simply what happens when math and reality collide in ways that aren't particularly comfortable to acknowledge. All right, now we need to talk about something that could potentially put way more than $200 in your pocket, and I really need you to focus here because what I'm about to tell you is absolutely crucial. Even though the COLA increase is automatic and you don't have to do anything to receive it, there are tons of other benefits and programs out there that you might be completely eligible for, but you're not receiving because nobody told you about them, or you assumed you wouldn't qualify without ever actually checking. I'm talking about literally billions of dollars in benefits that go unclaimed every single year because people either have no idea these programs exist or they've convinced themselves they don't meet the requirements before even applying. Let me break down some of what you might be missing out on right now. Medicare savings programs can help cover your Medicare premiums, deductibles, and coinsurance costs, potentially saving you hundreds of dollars every single month. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which used to be called food stamps, is available to seniors on Social Security depending on your income and assets. And yes, millions of seniors who qualify never bother to apply. There are state-specific programs in almost every state that provide property tax relief, utility bill assistance, prescription drug coverage at reduced costs, and a whole bunch of other benefits that can add up to way more than $200 monthly when you combine them together. The Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program can help you pay heating and cooling bills. Many states offer free or reduced-cost public transportation for seniors. There are programs that help with phone bills, internet costs, and even home repairs. Now, I know why a lot of these benefits go unclaimed, and I want to address this directly because it might be the exact thing holding you back right now. Part of it is pride, and I'm just going to be straight with you about that. I've talked to so many people over the years who worked their entire lives, paid into the system for decades, and feel like applying for any kind of assistance is somehow shameful or beneath them. They feel like they're taking a handout or accepting charity, and I want to challenge that thinking right here, right now, because it's absolutely costing you money, and it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what these programs actually are. If you paid taxes for 40 or 50 years, if you contributed to Social Security through every single paycheck you ever received, if you played by the rules and did everything you were supposed to do as a productive member of society, then accessing benefits that you're legally entitled to is not charity. It's not a handout. It's not welfare in any negative sense. It's you collecting on a promise that was made to you in exchange for your lifetime of work and contribution to this country. Let me give you some perspective on what we're really dealing with here, because I think sometimes we get so caught up in numbers and percentages that we forget about the human beings behind all these statistics. Social Security is not some nice little bonus or supplement for most Americans. For the overwhelming majority, it is the absolute foundation of retirement income, the thing that everything else gets built on top of. About 90% of people aged 65 and older receive Social Security benefits, which tells you just how universal and essential this program has become. For roughly half of elderly beneficiaries, Social Security provides at least 50% of their total income, meaning their entire financial stability rises and falls with that monthly deposit. And for about 1 in 4 seniors, Social Security is virtually their only source of income. There is no backup plan waiting in the wings. There is no pension from a company that went bankrupt years ago. There is no investment portfolio cushioning the blow. There is just that check and whatever it can or cannot buy. I want you to really let that sink in for a moment. We're not talking about abstract economic data points or political talking points for campaign season. We're talking about real human beings, retired teachers who spent their careers shaping young minds for poverty-level wages, factory workers whose bodies gave out after decades of physical labor, caregivers who spent years looking after elderly parents and couldn't work traditional jobs, veterans who served their country and came home to find limited options. These folks are trying to maintain some basic sense of dignity and independence in their later years, and the system they paid into for their entire working lives is barely keeping them afloat. Many of them survive on fixed incomes that simply don't stretch far enough to cover housing, food, health care, medications, and utilities. Inflation doesn't take a vacation just because you're retired, and your expenses don't magically shrink just because you hit a certain age. In fact, for many seniors, costs actually increase precisely when their ability to earn money disappears. So when we're talking about an extra $200 a month, even if it only applies to certain beneficiaries, we're not discussing luxury items or vacation funds. We're talking about basic survival and quality of life in the most literal sense. That $200 can be the difference between filling every single prescription your doctor wrote or having to stretch pills by skipping doses and hoping for the best. It can mean keeping the heat at a livable temperature during a brutal winter or sitting in a freezing apartment wrapped in blankets because you can't afford to turn up the thermostat. It can mean actually getting dental work done when a tooth starts causing unbearable pain or just suffering through it because there's no room in the budget. It can mean being able to afford a pair of glasses that let you read or watch television clearly, small things that make life feel worth living. And maybe most importantly, that extra money can be the difference between connection and isolation. For so many seniors, a couple $100 is what separates being able to afford gas money to visit grandchildren across the state from being stuck at home alone, day after day, week after week, cut off from the people they love most in this world. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking about the long-term sustainability of Social Security, and that's a legitimate concern that deserves acknowledgement. The Social Security trust funds are projected to face depletion somewhere around 2034 or 2035, depending on which analysis you're looking at. And if Congress doesn't get its act together and actually do something before then, benefits would potentially need to be cut by around 20% across the board just to match incoming revenue. That's a genuinely scary prospect, and it's absolutely something that needs to be addressed at the national level. But here's what I need you to understand. Worrying yourself sick about what might or might not happen a decade from now doesn't change a single thing about what's happening right now. And right now, today, you have benefits that you are entitled to, and you should be claiming every single dollar that is legally yours. All right, so here's exactly what I need you to do, and I'm being very specific and very direct because I want you to actually take action on this, not just nod along and forget everything 5 minutes after this video ends. First, if you haven't already done it, go pull up your most recent Social Security statement and verify that the COLA increase was properly applied to your payment. Your check should be 2.5% higher than what you received in December of last year. If the numbers don't match up, pick up that phone and call Social Security right away because something went wrong. Second, I want you to visit the Benefits Eligibility Screening Tool, and I'm talking about the official government website, and spend 20 or 30 minutes honestly answering questions about your income, your assets, and your living situation. This tool will show you exactly what programs you might qualify for, and I promise you're going to be surprised at what's available that you never knew about. Third, if that screening shows you're eligible for anything you're not currently receiving, start the application process immediately. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't convince yourself it's too much hassle. Don't let pride get in the way of money you've earned and deserve. Just start the process, see it through to completion, and watch those extra dollars start showing up in your account. Look, I know this was a lot of information to take in, but I hope you understand why I feel so strongly about getting this right. You worked too hard for too long to be misled by clickbait headlines and misleading content. You deserve the truth, you deserve to understand exactly where you stand, and you deserve to collect every benefit that's rightfully yours. If this video helped you in any way, if it cleared up confusion or pointed you toward money you didn't know you could access, then please hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you don't miss any future updates. I make these videos because I genuinely care about helping people like you navigate this complicated system, and your support by subscribing helps me reach more seniors who need this information. Share this video with friends, family members, anyone you know who's on Social Security or approaching retirement age. The more people who have accurate information, the fewer people get blindsided by misinformation. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll see you in the next one.